Hello and welcome back to Cracking On with the Sun for the last full week. I can't believe how quickly it's gone. The final is a week today.
I just can't believe that 6 weeks ago, let's say, we were sat here talking about, do you remember we had the picture of the line up here and we were talking about connections we wanted to see and beef that could occur.
We're going to look back and be wrong on basically
everything.
Every front. Yeah.
I was thinking that. Like, if we almost look back, we'll be like, it kind of almost calls into question whether we really are experts on Love Island at all.
I think we've given it a really good go. And I think that's the most important thing. I think effort, A for effort, for sure. For absolute sure.
We like Love Island experts. They try. So
that's why we've got a real expert on today. So we've got Paul Brunson. You may know him from Married at First Sight, Celebs Go Dating. He is a love guru. I would say, I'm going to go as far as to say, the nicest man in showbiz. He is one of my ultimate favourites. I'm going to his new book launch tonight. He's written a book about finding love, and I'm going to be front row. Trying to get research, to bring to the pod tomorrow. So I will bring you back some juicy tips. And Paul was telling me about his abs, and I kind of forgot what else he was talking about when he brought that up, because everything else went a bit blurry. But I did remember eventually to ask him the really important questions about Molly and Callum, and whether he thinks there's a future there.
Oh my God, I'm
despite
so
everything else, despite Jess, despite Tom, despite their breakup. Yeah, he's going to tell me all that and offer some really good insights into the world of reality television, and whether how much it's faked. Is there a potential to really find love? Yeah, we were talking about the matchmaking skills, and I've asked him all of this stuff.
Amazing. So we'll hear from him a little bit later on in the podcast. But for now, probably some people that could ask for his help are our latest dumped Islanders. So as we said on Friday...
There's so many!
They whacked through them. And the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the cringe situation of Joanna and Chris not being on the same page at all. So Joanna and Joe obviously left first. And just on Joanna, she sort of said, I definitely think if me and Callum had more time, I really want to speak to Callum on the outside. It was all about Callum. Chris, it's like Chris who? Whereas Chris, I'm going to read you this. Gushing.
Oh no.
When she came in, I was so excited. I fancied her for a long time. There's definitely something between us. We had lots of deep chats in bed. I learnt about her on a deeper level. He talks about how he's desperate for them to connect on the outside. I'm happy to leave because now I get the opportunity to speak to Joanna.
Oh, no.
I know.
Chris does not pick up on signals at all. He doesn't... He's not sensed that right at all. And I just think it's another... I don't want to start slagging Chris off again, but it was just another dip in the Chris Taylor fan club for me.
Oh.
Because it just showed a different side when Joanna and Joe, very unfairly, I think, did actually go out. And I agree with him on the logistics. The decision-making was very poor from the other Islanders.
Yeah.
But basically it's because they all liked Chris. But I was like, well, Chris has only got his eyes set on one person who doesn't like him.
Yeah.
How did that then lead to Joe Garrett being sent home? You know how much of a fan I am of Joe, and I'm absolutely fuming on his behalf because he was there really up for actually making connections. He was just getting to know Arabella, and he hadn't had enough time, and yet Chris has been there for ages. He's giving everyone the ick, and he gets another chance.
I know.
Only to go home the next day. So that's 3.
Yeah.
That was wild enough.
Yeah.
And then last night we had an extra 2, so we had Casey and Eve.
Yeah.
All a bit awkward last night, I thought.
Yeah. I felt like deja vu times 2, basically, because obviously 2020, Eve and Jess's first time round, Eve also left early, leaving Jess behind with a connection.
See, that would give me a complex.
Same.
It would really give me a complex.
Same. As one of 2 sisters, I have sibling complex, and I know that twins, it's probably even worse. So, I hope Eve's okay. She seemed all right, but like you say, it's going to burn, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think it's just luck in that place. And actually, Paul Brunson does talk about timing and luck with love.
That's good.
And it's that whole thing about just being able to be in the right place at the right time. The person's got to be in the right space, the headspace.
Yeah.
And although Casey said he was looking for love, was he really?
No. So this, being really strategic, I was trying to explain this to my husband last night. I was like, Casey is not the man you would go in there and pick, because Casey isn't there for coupling up. Casey's there for lols, connection.
But the difficulty is that he says that he is. So someone sees him, and he's obviously one of the funniest ones in there. He's very charming and sweet, cheeky chappy.
And also apparently very tall. Lucy was telling us this when she was on the pod while you were off.
Yeah, but Lucy's very short.
No.
Lucy won't mind me saying that. She's tiny. I'm only 5'5.5", but I wouldn't describe him as tall.
No, but it's because he's always stood next to Tom that famously is 6'5".
Yeah.
Like, Casey is very normal height for a man.
Normal height, yeah, for sure.
But everyone thinks of him as this tiny little man.
He's not tiny.
But I love this from Casey.
You've really done some work on this podcast.
Amanda,
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. I don't just come here and it. Casey's exit interview essentially is just all about Tom. He just talks about how...
I wouldn't expect anything else.
I thought this was really interesting though. He said, it's so nice to see Tom happy after going through such a difficult breakup with Sammy. Now, I know that was very like tit for tat. It was a bit beefy online, wasn't it? But I think that I think we knew that stuff had gone on, but it never struck me that it had been hard on Tom. Is that unfair of me?
Potentially, but I think the way that it's difficult, isn't it? The girls, I'm talking about Claudia, who was on this podcast, wasn't she, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
Her and Sammy at that time, they kind of were out on the girls' nights all the time, and sort of they were making like cryptic comments, and I think you do kind of gather your own like narrative from that, whereas Tom didn't say very much about it.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, all of this history he has with all the girls in the villa. When did that happen?
Yeah.
Like when he wasn't exactly at home crying his eyes out every night.
No.
So I can't have too much sympathy.
No.
There. I love that Casey's just got his back no matter what, though. I think Tom could, I was going to say go as far as say murder someone, maybe not, but he could do something really bad and Casey would just defend him.
Yeah, I think so.
To kind of love. I do love their bromance. What is going to happen so Tom's moving up north, we heard that last night, which is good for him and Molly.
Yeah.
But what does that mean for Casey? And was that your first thought as well?
Yeah, it was.
I really genuinely was thinking, but is Casey okay? What's going to happen to him?
Casey was probably in that villa looking for new applicants as a London bestie. Mm-hmm. Tom's ready to retire from that lad life, clearly. Mm-hmm. He wants to go back up north. Maybe he wants to play football again. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking maybe Joe Garrett.
Yeah.
Because we know that they're pals from the outside, because everyone was making jokes, weren't they, about how Casey had been casting for Love Island because it was all of his mates going in. So maybe it's going to be a Joe Garrett Casey.
But then don't you think that it's that whole situation was strange with the dumping, because you had Tom and Casey and Joe famously being really close friends, but then Joe got voted out. I really felt as if Tom was going to save Joe.
Yeah.
I was disappointed that he didn't.
Yeah, but Tom, doesn't really talk much, does he? He's 6'5".
He doesn't need to.
Because he's 6'5".
He doesn't need to.
Anyway, let's talk to someone who actually knows about these people in terms of their emotions and whatnot, instead of just...
He's going to show us up, isn't he?
Yeah, again, why do we keep getting people on the podcast that just make us look like we don't know what we're talking about?
Really good.
Cracking on Psychology Inc. is really suffering a blow.
You're going to feel Georgia Harrison Zen after this because of Paul's glorious voice.
I was going to say, when I've interviewed Paul before, you just get it's like he's hypnotising you.
Yes, it's totally like that.
You just melt in his voice. And honestly, if he said to me, the way to fix yours and your husband's I don't know, rowing about who's taking the bins out, I would be like, okay, I will take them out every day for the rest of my life.
I want to interview his wife next because I want to say, how are you ever cross with him? But I could never, ever be cross with Paul. Ever.
Yeah, but maybe that gets annoying. You
no,
know?
But still, just love him.
Oh,
anyway,
I'm sure she finds a way.
We're just gushing over Paul Brunson.
I know.
You will too.
Yay, let's hear from him.
With your work on Married at First Sight and Celebs Go Dating, how much of it is dependent on who the producers have put in there and how they're, how the personalities match up? Is it enough just to be looking for love, or do you think it's got to be really match made and to give them that chance?
You know what? I mean, this is a brilliant question. Because I think that answer, it's changed over time. So the reason why I started on television maybe now almost 15 years ago, right? So this was the show that I did with Oprah called Love Town in the US. And when we did that show together, it was essentially, there was not a lot of reality television, especially around love. So everyone who came on had no idea of the outcome, like the business outcome, becoming a brand or a celebrity. They went on for the pure passion of love. But then what we've seen over the last 15 years is that you've seen people realize, I can go onto this project and I can become a celebrity. I can become a huge brand. So many people over the years wanted to get onto TV in order to become a celebrity, right? To make money off of TV. Whereas today, because of social media, you have people who are already established, who don't need television. Right? Digital is one of them. I mean, you see how Channel 4 has shifted into digital and ITV has shifted into digital, right? So where I'm going with this is that I think the beauty is that now TV is no longer thought of as the only way or the way to become uber celebrity or make lots of money, which means that we are actually seeing more authenticity, like you're seeing on Love Island, like you will see on Married at First Sight, like I believe you'll see with Celebs Go Dating. You're seeing this shift into authenticity on television because they're getting what they want in other places. And then to your question of, well, then what happens when you put a group together? Well, whenever you put an authentic group together, you get authentic reaction. And normally that means that you're going to get some love. You're going to get some comparison. You're going to get the despair that comes with the comparison. You're going to get all of the dynamics that come with a group, for good and for bad. And it always makes for great TV. It always makes for great TV because as human beings, we're entertaining. We are entertaining. And so I think I think where we're moving towards is beautiful.
I'm just fascinated about people who do put themselves in this position and go on to find love and they get to the self-reflection they must have to watch yourself back, to see what you're like in arguments, whether you come on too strong, whether, how you communicate, what your style is. It's so interesting.
It is. And also too, it takes a high level, where everyone who goes onto these shows, Married at First Sight, Celebs Go Dating, Love Island, where they do not get enough credit is in the vulnerability that it takes to walk onto this show and know that people are going to judge you. And people are going to judge you just by the way you look. People are going to judge you just on how you sound. People are going to judge you by your behavior. Whether it is good, bad, or indifferent, you will be judged. And not only will you be judged while they're watching the show, but then when you're off the show, and you're walking to the coffee shop, the people who recognize you are going to think about when they judged you on television, and that's going to be how they brand you. And so the people walking into these television shows, you have to salute them for the level of vulnerability that it takes. And also too, is when you look at this, and Amanda, you've been in the space, you know that for every cast of 12 or 15 members, there's 2 or 3 that kind of break out and do some other projects if they choose to. But everyone else, they're back into their normal lives. But now they've been marked, that brand. And so it takes So I applaud the vulnerability. I applaud the vulnerability.
Once you've got the ick, can you un-ick? Or is that stuck?
Yeah, I think it depends on many things. Like, honestly, it depends on your attachment style, your levels of trauma, right? It depends on all of your behaviors. So can you? Absolutely. Do people mostly? They don't. They normally get the ick and it sticks.
And if someone's sort of pressuring you to like them, like the outside world's pressuring you to like someone and there wasn't that instant connection, but you give it a go, can you kind of push through that ick side and actually make it work because of other expectations from people?
Yeah, so the psychology of this is there's something called propinquity effect. And in essence, what that means is that the longer you're with someone and the more that you are going through novel events with that someone, the closer you will become to that person. So an extreme example is think of someone who you think is the most unattractive person in the world, but you were on a stranded island with that person. And you go through storms, you survive animal attacks and pirate attacks and all these things. Well, chances are, at a certain point in time in the future, you will be lovers. Like, it's just going to happen, So if you think about that, and that's the propinquity effect. So the answer is yes. But the reason why it doesn't happen to us is because we think we have all these options. We just pick up the app. We're like, oh, we don't need to talk to them because we've got a million options on this app. So that's the reason why we don't spend enough time, with the individual.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so interesting. And there was another example from Love Island where Molly and Callum were together. They met on the first series that they were on together, a 3.5-year relationship, but then split up. Both went on to All Stars, didn't know the other one was going on. And it seemed like it would be a perfect fit. They still get on, they still fancy each other. They have a real communication problem. And they've kind of ended up going with different partners, but they've spent this whole time together and they're actually ending up as friends. Is there a future there? I really think they could get back together. Do you think that works if you've had quite a long split and made it back as friends?
You know what's so interesting, I think, about love in life is that you could have all of the right thoughts and beliefs and ideas and behaviors, but if it is not the right season for you, if it is not the right time, it doesn't work, right? It's challenging for a lot of people, right? Because you have to be empathetic. Mm-hmm. You have to listen. And then we made the change as a result of that conversation. So it was the right time. So to your question of that couple is, unless it is the right time, it's like the moon and the stars have to align. Mm-hmm. And that's what could make it challenging for them.
Oh, God, that all makes so much sense as well.
I know. I feel like I learned so much. I need to get him in a room with Arabella because obviously we're just hearing about, how you not can fake something, but you do. There's intensity there, isn't it, when you're just given a couple of options. And that's what Arabella's very good at is just sort of moving on very quickly to the next person. And her game is very strong, as the girls were sort of ogling yesterday.
Good game.
She's now so into Adam, but she is just so hopeless at playing it cool. I've never seen anything like it.
I would say, though, why have we placed this value on playing it cool? Why do we care about playing it cool?
Just because it felt a bit sort of bunny boiler almost. It was like he'd been in for 5 minutes and she was like, now I feel complete. Now I understand why everything's happened the way it has. Adam's here to rescue me. It's like, geez.
Yeah.
I just, you can see why. I mean, it's a lovely trait, isn't it? 'Cause she's so kind of pure. And she has such hope. But it's why she had that horrible heartbreak, perhaps, before going into the villa, because she puts everything into it.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of left disappointed because you've maybe rushed into things too much. Is that fair?
But yes. But how amazing, despite hurt, to be able to just keep bouncing back.
Oh, and she's an absolute legend. I love her.
Going into life with such an open heart, which is what I get from her. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's how, like trying to find love when you're holding your heart like this will never work. Mm-hmm. The only way to find love is to be like, it's battered and bruised, but here it is. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what she does. I mean, unapologetic, unashamedly, I think she's fab.
I think she's become one of my favourites in there.
Yeah.
I love the fact that she throws herself into it and is just
also,
really, she's the only one who's actually given the experience like a proper go when you think about it. You know, she's put herself out there a lot of times, and I just hope that Adam is that, what she's saying, that's kind of maybe knight in shining armour, and he seems like quite a nice guy, doesn't he?
You know what they say though, the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else.
Yes.
Especially on the terrace.
I think Adam would squish her though.
Yeah. He's got the throwdown, hasn't he? Look, and I just think all she does is she's just like, she has great chat about it. She talks the talk. Everyone thinks she's hilarious. Quote more of my research. Arabella is the funniest girl ever. She is hilarious. If ever I needed a laugh in the villa, I would go straight to Arabella.
Who said this?
That was Eve.
Okay.
So my point is, yes, she snogged quite a lot of the boys.
You reading a note that you've taken about it.
It's not my diary. Dear diary.
Although her kisses are quite intense to watch. Like, I feel, you know, when you're a bit like, oh, should I be watching this?
I just think it's fab. Like, you know, we're all about empowerment and girls. And if it was a boy doing all this snogging, you know, the name of the game is snogging. They literally play games which are just about snogging. So, I love it for her.
And speaking of terrace snogs, the terrace sort of took a bit of a turn last night because we had Eve. The terrace was her office, and she was calling in anyone and everyone at her disposal, and just like, it was just quite scheduled, it was quite direct, she was really bossing it. My favourite moment was her calling up Callum, who is, you know, he's a bit of a stirrer, but in a really quiet, kind of accidental way. Like, he starts telling someone something, and then he's like, oh God, actually I've kind of, you know, put my foot in it.
Yeah.
Has mixed this thing about Casey and Eve. She calls him up and he's like, oh no. He goes all the way, it's because he was like the other side of the villa, walks all the way there, walks all the way up the stairs, gets to the terrace, and it was like 5 seconds later, okay, you're dismissed.
I know. And then I like how she was like, right, Casey, you can go. I'm going to get the girls back up here. And then she's like, girls, you can come back up now. I just quite enjoyed it.
Again, female empowerment, and she's just bossing it. I absolutely loved her.
Yeah, I sort of feel, I think we've talked about this, like the twins are they come across as quite sort of, you know, wallpaper, you know, maybe a bit forgettable, but maybe that we're just not actually seeing this from them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what she's like all the time.
Bossy.
I mean, let's not forget Jason Derulo. So I can't imagine Jason Derulo being with someone that hasn't got a bit about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you notice Tom Clare and his chat last night?
Funnily enough, no.
So he went on the date with Molly. Yeah. Oh my God, didn't Molly look incredible?
On Friday night.
Red Friday night show with the rose. Oh, she just looked stunning. I love her so much.
Yeah.
And it was a lovely day. But it was just the same recycled chat. Now, we know that he works, he's like an ambassador for eBay, isn't he? And they do all their pre-loved. So not only is he wearing pre-loved clothes, he's wearing pre-loved lines, like chat-up lines and stuff. So he just takes them. So everything he said to Sammy on final dates, he's taken to Molly and just repeated them.
Word for word.
So it was like, you know, can't imagine anyone else being with... that he can see her being this girlfriend on the outside.
I genuinely can see you being my girlfriend on the outside.
I just thought, okay, but, you know, like, we've not seen anything from them. And I know that they are they've been voted the favourite couple, the most compatible couple. Is it just because they look good? We don't really see much of their fun side, I don't think. I'd love to see a bit more of that.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I do think we see... Molly on the main show, they have cast her as romantic lead. Now, I think we get a lot more of Molly being fun and funny on unseen bits. I always really like unseen bits for that.
She's got a dirty laugh like yours. She really goes for it. Like, I love when she actually finds something funny and she really proper goes for it.
Yeah. And I don't think it's necessarily fair on her because I think people do think she's a bit bland maybe, but I think that's only because of the main show edit.
Well, no, is it because of what Tom's giving her? Like, she probably needs someone to bounce off of.
Yeah. But as when I was speaking to Ema about Molly and Callum said, like, that moment between her and Callum when she was doing his makeup, you know, when it was the punk night and he was drawing the star.
Yeah.
Like, they do look like they had genuine fun together.
Yeah.
So
we
maybe
just need
her,
to see more of
maybe
it,
her and Tom do have that.
Yeah.
Like, we know that Tom's got it in him because Casey brings it out of him. So, I mean, maybe it's just what we see.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
What do they say about 1 million times? You only see 1 hour of 24 hours.
Yeah, nah. That's like the million other hours that we record the podcast when we are like hilarious.
We are so good.
And
it's a shame that no one sees that.
I
really.
know. No, I completely agree. Exactly the same. And if I was Molly, who presumably watched that series, because they all watch the series because they do various chats about it and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, you said that to Sammy.
I wouldn't be able to not say that. I would be...
Go away and tell me something new.
But then maybe she's just riding it to the final. She knows that she's going to win now with
and
him.
then get back with Callum.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be so good.
I've got some news for you actually on that front.
Okay.
I was saving it to the end, but I'm just going to give it to you now.
Why? Oh, okay. This is not like you. Normally you tease me, but go for it.
So you know how we like to say that Love Island producers listen to the podcast?
Well, they do, yeah.
So obviously they've been listening to the podcast, but I think they've also been listening to the fans because, drumroll, tonight...
Do you actually want one?
Molly and Callum go on a date.
You're kidding.
Right, I've just teased that massively. It's a double date.
Oh, okay.
With Tom and Jess as well.
Oh.
But...
Get rid of them.
To me...
How awkward is that?
To me, though... So it's one of those ones that they do themselves in the villa. I just massively went in on...
okay, you
I made it
tease maybe.
But my point is... What I'm hoping is that Jess and Tom being boring will just make Molly and Callum realise with that direct comparison within the date moment, oh...
Yeah, that's a good point.
What do you think?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think there's got to be... There's got to be a way. I mean, we're really forcing it. The producers are forcing it. Islanders are forcing it.
Push the romance is what we're saying to you.
Take some Anton advice.
Oh, sorry. I really, really ramped that up. Yes. But look, you never know. You never know.
I have full hope.
Yeah. So, what else have you got for me, Detective Devlin?
Detective Devlin strikes again.
Go on.
So, I don't know if you've seen all this whole... backlash from Theo Campbell. Theo Campbell was... What series was it now? I can't remember the
year. So it was the Olivia Atwood year. Series 3?
Yeah.
Because he was in with...
iconic series.
I remember him... he was definitely in with Camilla, wonderful Camilla and Jamie, and that was that year, wasn't it?
So he was back for All Stars. It was all kind of prepared. He's kind of come out and said that, everything was ready to go. His bags were packed.
Yeah.
And suddenly, it was only a day before he was meant to fly out to South Africa for All Stars.
Yeah.
Got a call from a Love Island producer to say, we're actually just going to have you as a bombshell. So it wasn't him being sacked or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he's already been a bombshell.
Yeah.
And my sources close to Love Island say that he just wasn't happy going into the villa as a bombshell. He wanted to be OG status this time around.
And also, it's really important to note, I think, at this point, is that there's been lots of Islanders that have said that they were in talks and that kind of thing. But Theo's story comes from a place of real credibility because he even shot that opening sequence, didn't he?
Which
they were all on that red carpet where, they turned to the camera and that kind of thing.
So it's legit. You can see he was on that, yeah.
He was legit meant to be one of the ones in our printed out photo at the beginning.
It wasn't just take a picture at the airport of your luggage.
Yeah, it's not just Chugs and Aaron in Cape Town type situation. It was legit.
Yeah, and he was just so prepped to go and then got pulled at the last minute. And he was told he would end up being maybe sort of end of week 1, week 2, potentially beginning of week 3 kind of bombshell.
Yeah.
And he wasn't having it. He spent a lot of time being convinced by producers to actually go on the show and felt as if he'd been let down. Obviously, we've got to kind of counterbalance it by saying that really the Islanders going in, they're not in until they're in. They're not in, like, because they're all
They
in holding.
always say that.
So they fly out so many Islanders. There'll have been loads that have gone out there and nothing's happened. They think they're going to go in. They're in holding there because they go into sort of a lockdown situation, away from the outside world. And then if it doesn't work out storyline wise or however else.
Yeah, because they're always reacting to the situations.
And so they could just be sent home, and then we're none the wiser that actually they're over in South Africa. I just think that he's finding it quite difficult, Theo, to maybe just keep it sort of lying down on move on from it.
He was always outspoken.
But that's why I think he would have been brilliant.
Yeah.
But Detective Devlin can reveal that the reason that he was pulled out at the last second was because he was meant to be he's actually been replaced by Lewis Morrison. So Lewis was the sort of the one who they thought, no, he's going to be better being as an OG, and we can see how that worked out really, really terribly. So I think they'll be kind of laughing about that a bit, you know, and he's been going online and making some snide remarks to Love Island. It's giving a bit bitter, but you can see where he's coming from.
Yeah.
I would be too if my bags are all packed and then next thing you're not on the show.
Yeah.
And obviously losing out on a big fee too.
Yeah.
So tonight's show is my favourite of the series.
Oh my God, the heart rate challenge.
Yeah.
It's always incredible.
But this is going to be another level. We've spoken about this before, how they have been in training for this. This is like their Olympics.
Yeah.
They are going into this where they knew there was going to be a heart rate challenge. They are ready in their bikini bods to be the winner, and it's very competitive. They want to win.
So this is something that I would love to see a thesis/TED talk about, is the evolution of the heart rate challenge over the years of Love Island. Because never mind the chat, the self-awareness, the lack of sex and smoking and stuff, for me this really shows the metamorphosis of Love Island. That to start with, it was all quite tame. There was, you know, a bit of a lap dance type situation. There was maybe a bit of a lick up the ear,
and even that was a bit steamy.
Yeah.
Your grandma's watching at home or something.
I remember writing about it back in the day and it being like raunchiest episode ever. And then fast forward a couple of years, and for me the year that it went wild was summer 22. So India, Ekin-Su, Tasha, because those were dancers. And I don't know if you remember, India especially did that upside down twerking thing.
Oh my goodness.
I was just like, this isn't just shimmying about in a bit of Ann Summers anymore.
Yeah. Danica, was that Danica as well?
Yes.
She was doing the
who was
twerking.
like a burlesque dancer.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like, people would pay good money down Stringfellows for this, and I say that with full admiration for these women.
Well, yeah, the Love Island producers have got a lot from their money, because if you think they're going to get this proper show they've not had to pay for, we are all spectators and loving it.
It's like, to start with, it was just about whose heart rate raised whose, because look, I think we all know that maybe there's a bit of manipulation there. Like, it can't always produce that juicy, X raise the heart rate more.
Love Island would dispute that. It's all based on facts and figures.
I completely disagree.
But I do actually think that there's an element of nervousness that they don't want to. So I'm thinking Molly and Callum.
Yeah.
They'll be so conscious they don't want their heart to race that it's going to mean that their heart will race
I
naturally.
agree.
So I do think that there's a lot of that. My little theory.
Go on.
It's more of like a wish list, I think, actually. It's more like, please, can it happen? They raise both of each other's heart rates the most, and they talk about it afterwards. They end up on the terrace. A bit of an Arabella comes over them. They start kissing, and they're together again. That's my
Oh my
wish.
God, I would love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And the fans would go wild. Because I completely agree. Like, hearts can raise for all sorts of reasons. Nerves, like you say. Like, do you remember, again, it was that same year. So it was Gemma Owen.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Jax. And it was
Jax,
when
her
she
ex,
was with
and
Luca.
yeah.
And her heart was raised by Jax. And she essentially was like, it's because I've had sex with him. So obviously I was thinking about having had sex with him. So,
which isn't great, is it?
so Molly and Callum, assuming after 3.5 years they were still having great sex, let's say yes, they will inevitably thinking about like that, like one really hot night that they had together.
But then the issue is, it's okay. It was maybe a bit of a rarity on Love Island for there to be one ex in there, and there's going to be a raised heart rate. This time around, we've got multiple exes.
Yeah.
So Tom, we know that he's had history with Georgia Harrison. Arabella, I don't know whether
Georgia Steele. Has Tom had history with Georgia Harrison?
Sorry, Georgia Steele. I'm so. Why have they lasted the whole series, the two of them?
Annoying.
Yeah. Tom has been with Arabella. I don't know if it was intimate, but there's various kind of.
Yeah, Toby's got them
it's
all.
all intertwined. Toby, I don't know who Toby hasn't been with.
Yeah.
That is just all going to kick off, isn't it?
So I've got two little bits of info for you on this. The tea. Arabella, unsurprisingly, comes in hot.
Yeah.
Like,
she's going to be the best.
She delivers by all accounts. And the second thing is there's someone who, to me, I won't tell you who it is, but surprisingly so, to quote one of the execs, she looks like she's beeping him.
Oh.
So fill in the blank there. It's the obvious one that you think, like the raunch is raunching.
Ooh.
So I think that we can all get very excited about this. Actually, let's get some empowerment in here. Mm-hmm. The boys also, really always deliver, don't they? Do you remember last year when Mehdi was like, I can't dance, so I'm just going to snog everyone?
Yeah. You're obsessed with Mehdi.
No, I'm not.
You are so obsessed with Mehdi.
I feel like I've mentioned him twice, and that makes me obsessed with him because no one talks about Mehdi.
Oh, Mehdi. Yeah, I do like watching the boys because it's harder for them kind of just instantly. They can't do the lingerie stuff.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see how they split it. It's either that they go the kind of humour, like funny route.
Yeah.
Or they go... They try and do like maybe a Dream Boys, like that kind of striptease, or they go really awkward. Like, and I'm thinking Charlie, how do you say his surname? Charlie Rednedge, he's like one of the Made in Chelsea guys. He came in, I think he was like trying to go for Wrecking Sue, but he was just so wooden and stiff, and everyone started laughing at him, and it was just like so cringy. He was a lovely boy, but it was just like,
I know exactly what you mean. I think the difficulty that the boys have is obviously they're essentially like half naked all the time anyway. So visually, the only thing that's slightly different is their shorts are tight.
And they've got they're dancing, or they're doing a bit of grinding.
Whereas the girls, like you say, immediately can raise a heart rate just by what they've got on.
Yeah.
So I do think it's hard for the boys.
Yeah. God, I don't know how they do it. I really don't. I think, can you imagine that walk? It must feel like forever. And of course you've got the girls on the terrace looking over and kind of judging as well. So
yeah,
it's like this double whammy, and they must be brave. They must be super brave to do it.
Yeah. I know. God, so we'll be digging into that tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Will it be a 10 from Len? Or more of a Craig Revel Hallwood?
Oh.
I don't know. Who do you think you're going to be? I think I'm more like a Motsi Mabuse vibe of just like, happy to be here.
Yeah, I don't know if I can be Craig because I couldn't do it. So I can't really be judging.
No.
But I'm just going to be... I'm being Anton, just, critique,
so you're predicting,
I'm
gonna note this down, Molly and Callum.
I'm gonna think Molly and Callum, they definitely, that's the obvious thing, right? I think Arabella will win overall with all of the
most
guys.
too. Because I think she'll just go in.
Do you think that Adam will be awkward? He has got that kind of...
No, because I was thinking about this. And not in that way. Being a wrestler is like acting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So he will just be like, I'll do these moves and I'll act. I mean, surely he's going to be a wrestler, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll have him dress up
Do they
in like...
have to have a theme?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you want your theme to be?
Not what... Was it Belle Hassan that had to have that like red wig on?
Oh no, it was Mary.
Mary Bedford, yeah.
When she was a mermaid and it was awful.
And I just thought they didn't give her a chance, did
No.
they? Like, I would not want that. That would be hell. Hell on earth. I think you just want like the least amount of clothes possible so that you've got a starting chance.
Yeah.
And I think I would snog them all because I think that would just like get everyone going in more ways than just like standing there twirling.
Yeah, I would want to go for, if I can't be sexy, I would try and shock them into a heart rate. You know what I mean? Yeah, because as we say, there's more than one ways to raise a heart.
You could just like go to whisper in their ear and then just scream.
But I think, I think the one thing that we can all be grateful for is that Chris isn't there. Because we know it would be the comedy routine and
the ick of all
the whole of Britain, if not the globe, would be icked out.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, we've got so much coming up on the podcast for the kind of the last full week.
Definitely no icks.
No icks. We're going to be giving you all of the goss as we head towards the final and try and get some predictions in from some experts and some past Islanders as well. So, yeah, please make sure you stay tuned.
Yeah, and everyone get your heart rate monitors at the ready because I want to hear tomorrow who everyone's winner is.
Yes.
So, see you then.